Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Pen and Heal podcast. I'm your host, Javeria Fatima Zedi, and the founder of Pen and Heal. As an expressive writing life coach, I specialize in helping highly sensitive women attain their goals by using the transformative power of expressive writing. The guest I have with me today is a life coach. She works with children as well as adults, and I'm sure that she wears many hats in her life. But one thing that she is not, she told me, is Amazon Prime. She told me she is not Amazon Prime. Please join me in welcoming Gina King to the show. Hi, Gina. How are you doing?
Hi. Good. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I love that introduction. You are correct. I am not Amazon Prime. I wish
I loved
someone.
that in our chat when you said you're not Amazon Prime. Before we dive into the other questions, can you elaborate on that for our audience?
Off- I tell my clients all the time, we live in a world now where things are at our fingertips. I can Amazon Prime something and get it here the same day.
Yeah.
We can Google any answer very, very quickly. And I think what the reason I say to my clients, hey, the things that we're working on take time
Yeah.
because we're unlearning things, we're relearning things, all of these different things that we're learning, and it does take time. And I think we are in that mindset that in the snap of my fingers I should just have it, and if I don't, I give up. So
Hmm.
I tell people, this is not Amazon Prime. We're going to
Yeah.
take our time because we have a journey, and it's not
Yes.
about showing up in instant gratification that we live in right now. Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. Oh, and by the way, I'm just gonna say this at the outset. I have a habit of taking notes. So if I look down and I begin scribbling, please continue talking.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, I'm
So
the same way.
yeah, that's great. And so do you tell us about yourself and your journey to
Well,
becoming a coach?
so gosh, I started off as this little girl that had big dreams of being a mom and having kids and a family and all of these things. And I, looking back, I knew how badly I wanted to help children, but I didn't know in what capacity as that little girl. And I think took a very safe route for myself, being a teacher. Nothing against being a teacher. I think teachers are
Yeah.
the most wonderful people on the planet, to be quite honest. My mom was a teacher, but when I say I played it safe, was I knew that I would be really good at it. And I had these limiting beliefs that the things that I wanted to actually try couldn't really happen for me.
Mm,
And um, so I did. I played it safe, knowing I would be really good at being a teacher, and I was. I loved being in the classroom. I'm creative. I was a teacher for 15 years, and as I, had this career that I was wonderful, but I knew that there was something else I was supposed to be doing. I didn't know what. I couldn't figure it out, but for a really long time, I just was unsettled, I would say. And the more I was working with kids, the more I realized how badly I wish someone would have told me the things that I was telling them.
mm,
And to be very open and honest, and I tell this story about 12 years ago, I was in a really abusive, physically, mentally, emotionally abusive relationship. And when you're a teacher, you have to go in there and focus on your children.
yeah.
And I remember one terrible morning driving to work, crying, sobbing, thinking, how is this my life? And walking in there into my classroom, wiping away my tears, and boys and girls, I'm here, and
Mm,
showing up for them. But that particular moment, that particular morning, was, I think, the catalyst that really kind of shifted. That morning, my students came in, and I walked over to every little girl and pretended that I was looking at their morning work, making sure they were doing it. But what I was actually doing is I put my hand on each little girl's shoulder and I silently prayed and I said, God, please help them know their worth so that no one ever treats them the way that I was just treated this morning. Please help them. And then I walked over to every little boy and I put my hand on their shoulder, pretending again that I'm looking at their math. And I prayed, please let him love himself enough that he will never treat a woman or anyone the
Yeah.
way that I was treated this morning. And that
Yeah.
was my shift. And that is when I started really focusing on like, what is happening in my life that I'm allowing this treatment? What happened with my awareness of my own self-worth? And it became
Mm.
really my mission and my purpose, which is before Gina King coaching, I started my Worth Girl. I wanted little girls to understand, know, and then defend self-worth so
Mm.
that they could live any life that they wanted. They could go
Yeah.
after these huge dreams and things like that. And so it really started in my classroom. And as I evolved as a human, I decided math, science, all of those things are important. And at the same time, we should be teaching also self-worth, compassion, empathy, emotional regulation, limiting
Mm.
beliefs, all of those things. And that's truly how it really started. So looking back, if I wasn't in that relationship, I
Mm.
wouldn't be here today. So I can have gratitude for that.
Wow. Yeah, that's it's a deeply personal story. Thank you for sharing that with us, Gina.
Thank
You
you.
know, when you were telling me, like I had goosebumps. And especially, I found it especially touching how you went to each student and you prayed for them individually. Even now talking about it, I have tears in my eyes because that just goes to show just how special teachers are. And you know, I mean, that's just amazing how you were able to do that for your students and for yourself. Like you got out of that, and now you know, and you realized what, like you said, you wished, you know, some things that you wished someone had told you when you were younger, and now you do that for other children. That's just brilliant. I mean, wow. So I'm just going to take a moment to just sort of absorb that because that is really powerful, right there. Okay, so
Thank you.
that's, you know, that's a really powerful journey that you've been on, and
Mhm.
obviously, your clients, I'm sure they see they reap the benefits of your transformation. Will you talk to us about your clients? Who are your clients? Who do you work with?
Yeah. So the wonderful thing that I get to do is all of my calls are virtual. So I'm working with kids, children, teenagers, and women now, not just in America, but in the UK, which is awesome. And I get to work with so many different types of people, and I feel incredibly grateful for that. My clients range in ages 6 to however, like there is no age limit.
Mm.
Typically though, the women that I'm working with are in their 30s, 40s, really working on those kinds of goals. I'm working with teenagers, 18-year-old, 15, girls and boys, working on about to go to college or what is my life about? Like, what am I about to do? And
Yeah.
then I work with little ones, 6 years old, 7, 8, 9, and 10, the tween years also. And like I said, all of them are different. And so we're working on lots of different things. The base of that would be confidence, self-worth, and learning their identity. But at the
Mm.
same time, emotional regulation, effective communication. How do I ask for what I need? How do I
Mm.
set a, um, how do I you know, show up for myself and show up for other people? How can I learn
Yeah.
to be curious and not judgmental, whether it's with
Mm.
myself or with other people?
Yeah.
Um, will I tolerate and what won't I tolerate? So really like when it comes to life coaching, life, there's an abundance of things that we're going to learn and experience. And so I really am grateful that it's not just this is the only thing I work on and it's in my little box. Like there's so many things that I can help little kids, tweens and teens, and then women. And it's really exciting because again, at the base of it, we're all just trying to figure out who I am, what
Yes.
I deserve, and how I show up for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Who I am, what I deserve, absolutely. Everyone, that's what we're on the quest for finding, isn't it? And if you
Yes.
start them off young, I mean, just think of the heights that they can reach as they grow older, as opposed to people like us who, who learned these things when we were much older. So, you know, what would you say is one of the biggest challenges that your clients face in on the path to, for example, emotional regulation? That.
I think if I'm going to speak with like little ones,
Yeah.
I think the challenges that I see the most, whether it's a little child or a teenager, it's really about feeling included, feeling
Mm,
like, do I belong here? Feeling, um, their confidence in themselves that people want me here. And I
mm,
work so much with, like I said, whether it's a fifth grade girl or a 15-year-old girl feeling like, do they want me?
mm,
And helping them to understand, wait, do they want me or do I want them?
mm,
And being able to regulate themselves in those emotions when they are feeling less than.
mm,
Um, Helping a little one last night, for example, little guy, not confident to a first grader. I don't want to raise my hand because I don't want anyone to laugh at me.
oh,
And there's this fear he's never been laughed at, but
mm,
this fear is already blocking him from participating because again, it goes back to then I'll be left out, or then maybe I'll be abandoned, and those kinds of things. And I think a lot of us, a lot of my clients, it's the fear of what will people think, and if what is it that they'll think, am I going to get left or abandoned? And
mm,
then what? And I think the biggest thing with that is our self-worth, but then this fear of being
yeah,
left or not accepted would be
yeah.
another.
The fear of
Yeah.
abandonment, and what was the second one that you said?
Not feeling accepted
Not
for
feeling
who they are.
accepted.
Being
Yeah,
left. Yeah. If I make this mistake,
yeah,
are you going to leave?
yeah,
And I work with whether they're in high school or like I said, a first grader,
yeah.
we already have this fear of other people's opinions. And what
Mm,
I'm trying to help them do, and myself too, because don't get me wrong, I still worry what people will think.
absolutely. Yeah,
How to continue moving forward instead of feeling like, nope, forget it. I'm not going to do it
mm,
because I'd rather stay small, or I'd rather just stay invisible so that there's no way you
yeah.
can
Playing it
abandon
safe,
me.
basically. Yeah. Oh,
Exactly.
that makes me think, that the fear of abandonment or the fear of not being accepted, that probably goes back to childhood and how our parents respond to our, I suppose, our less than desirable traits when we're younger,
Mhm.
you know?
Absolutely.
And that's really eye-opening, and that's sort of a wake-up call for me as a parent, to examine how I should behave with my children. Um, in fact, now I'm feeling bad because, as I should, by the way, as I should, because so my girls know that when my door is closed and I'm in a meeting or a recording, then they shouldn't knock. But my older one, she forgot and she had to come into the room to get a prayer rug, so she's not in. And I've gone and gotten angry at her. And she's like, "Well, I didn't hear you say that," and I was like, "Well, my door was locked," and now I'm like, this is a reminder for me to go and repair that rupture after we're done with this recording.
Repairing the rupture is so important. And
Yeah.
when I work with parents, so the wonderful thing with my clients is I work with the child for 45 minutes, but then I work with the parents for 15 minutes of that last session. And what we're
Mm,
talking about is what your child needs from you, but
yeah.
also helping them recognize, oh my gosh, you're right. How do I expect my child, for this is an example,
Yeah.
not to lose it on me and get so emotional and yell or cry when I'm yelling at them.
Mm,
And I had a parent say to me, "Oh my gosh, I was trying to help him emotionally regulate, but here I am screaming at him or yelling at him to calm down. And I'm doing the exact opposite of what
Exactly.
I'm trying to teach him. And
Yeah.
I tell parents, like, first of all, you're a human, so let's
Mm.
not be so hard on ourselves. And at
Yeah.
the same time, cool. Now we have some self-awareness to go, oh, I got to figure out what's triggering me. I got to
Yeah.
figure out how to calm myself so that I can speak to, your daughter with compassion or respect in that way.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I love that you said though, the second part of that is owning it. And going to your daughter, hey, I own it that I lost my cool with you. I want to
Yeah.
apologize. She can own it later too, like, you know what, mom, I own it that I didn't really pay attention to the door. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the things you have that empathetic conversation instead of a
Yeah.
blame game there. Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah. That's amazing that that's so important what we've just spoken about. And one of the things that I know that we spoke about before our podcast was how one of the things that stops us from sort of taking the right steps is self-sabotage. Now, self-sabotage is such it's such a, shall I say, famous topic? It's such a well-known word, right?
Buzzword,
It's a
I would say,
buzzword, yeah. It's a
a
buzzword.
lot.
And yet I'm not sure that many of us understand what it means. How would we spot self-sabotage in ourselves or our children, do you think?
Yeah, so the way I think about self-sabotage is we are getting in our own way. The
Mm,
only person that is blocking us from achieving the goals or the dreams or any kind of thing is us.
mm,
And self-sabotage isn't, I think, something that is very conscious.
mm,
It's very subconscious. It's part of that inner child. It's part of our subconscious beliefs about who we are. And so
mm,
I truly think that subconscious comes from the belief of our identity.
mm,
And this belief isn't a true understanding of our identity. And what I mean by that is, for example, if I have this limiting belief that um, I can't, I can never be rich, I can never have $1 million or have a really nice house, whether my goal is like, I'm going to start this business and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, if my identity, my subconscious identity is the belief that that can't happen for me, then the goal and of what I truly want is completely different than what I believe I can have.
mm.
And so
That's
if we don't,
brilliant. Yeah.
yeah, so if we don't figure out, wait, what are these beliefs I have about who I am? So
Mm,
then we can go after my goal, I'm going to continue self-sabotaging. And so to point out, like, there's a few things that I've written down, a few things to look at. Like, the biggest things I think, ways you would know if you are sabotaging yourself or
mm,
you're sabotaging themselves, is to first of all figure out what are the beliefs I have about this goal. Like I
mm,
said, for example, if it's, oh, I'm gonna be a millionaire, but the limiting belief is I'm terrible with money. I don't deserve that. Rich people are greedy. Like, whatever we
mm,
subconscious thing is going to stop me from doing that. So one of the things, the one of the biggest things about self-sabotage is instead of focusing on the present, we focus on our past. So if we're
mm,
focusing only on our past experiences, focusing on the thing, our past mistakes or past people that have hurt us, we are going to end up sabotaging our future because again, we're not looking that way, we're looking that way. And what I'm
mm,
doing is looking in the past. And the other thing is we focus on the lack. A lot
mm.
of times people sabotage, again, they have this goal, but then they're focusing on the things that they don't have. They're
Yeah.
focusing on the bank account that it's not where I want it to be. Therefore, um, it can never be.
Yeah.
So we focus on the lack, and guess what's going to happen? You're always going to continue seeing the lack. So if you
Mm,
start shifting our mindset to finding the good I even have my little ones when they're negative with school, like, oh, this is hard and this is hard and this is hard. Well, what was good today? What was the
Mm,
good that you found today? Because
mm,
again, I'm just trying to get them to shift that mindset to abundance, to find the
yeah,
positive, find the good things there.
yeah,
But when we are in that lack mindset, we are going to sabotage
yeah,
ourselves. Again, unintentionally, but we are. And
yeah.
then the other thing that we all are guilty of is comparing ourselves. And so most of the times that we sabotage ourselves is when we're looking at other people,
Mm,
especially social media.
mm,
And, social media, the lovely thing, it's connected us. I think it
yeah,
can be such a great thing.
yeah.
But at the other point is people are so saturated and sanitized. They're going to give you the best of what they look like. It's a filter or these kinds of moments. So then I might be scrolling like, oh, look at her or look at him.
Mm,
Look at when really I'm seeing the smallest little part of their life and I'm not seeing the before or the during or the after of that photo.
exactly. Yeah,
So now I'm telling myself a story of
yeah,
what their life might be when really that person only wants me to see the highlight reel.
yeah.
But when we start comparing ourselves to other people, what it does is then we're focusing again on our lack,
Mm,
our self-worth is less than theirs, which then again is sabotaging. And then the other part of self-sabotage is focusing on the things that we can't control. I
mm,
get my little kiddos, teenagers, I have to ask myself, okay, what can you control? Okay, I
yeah,
can control my attitude. I can control the way I show up. I can
yeah,
control how I speak to other people. I can control if I smile at someone today. I can't control how people treat me. I
yeah.
can't control if my teacher gives me a super hard test or a pop quiz. I can't control, if someone was in a bad mood and they took it out on me.
Yes.
Unfortunately, what we do is we're focused so much on what other people are doing maybe to us
Yeah.
that we get into this other mindset of, well, let me control that. Let me focus on them so
Mm,
that I don't focus on what I actually can control, which is moving forward, trying
yeah,
again, going to the gym,
yeah,
whatever that is.
yeah,
So those would be my biggest things of how we self-sabotage. Those would be some top four signs that you
yeah.
are sabotaging yourself
Yeah. I mean,
subconsciously.
that is amazing. I never realized that there was such a link between self-sabotage and limiting beliefs. That is really amazing, and the subconscious beliefs that we have about ourselves. And again, it just all of this keeps taking you back to parenting. Where do we get the subconscious beliefs from? It's from our parents, from our environment. So, what sort of environment are we providing to our children? But then the good thing is that nothing is set in stone. So even if you have made mistakes in the past, you can still sort of go back and patch the foundations up, so to speak.
Absolutely. And you're right. Our subconscious is developed by age 7.
Mm,
So all those little thoughts and experiences and things like that, it is set that, okay, these are my limiting beliefs, but like you said, it's not set in stone.
yeah,
The very amazing thing is that we can unlearn it. We
yeah,
can um change beliefs.
yeah,
A belief is something, why do we believe it's true? Because we have told ourselves it's true. And
yeah.
unfortunately, our mind believes everything we tell it. And once we start learning our thoughts are not, first of all, us, and our thoughts are not always true,
Mm,
then we have more freedom to say, woo, that was an interesting thought. And I'm going to choose not to believe that one because it doesn't serve me. It's not pushing me anywhere where I want to or need to go. And
yeah,
so, like you said, as a little kid, these limiting beliefs start popping up, which is why I tell parents it is never too early or too late to start working on the things that you're thinking about and the things you're
mm,
believing about yourself.
yeah,
One other thing I do want to mention, though, with self-sabotage is we then, based on our identity and who we believe we are or what it is truly what we deserve,
yeah,
again, subconsciously, um, we start associating ourselves with people that are going to prove that to be correct.
Mm.
But the second thing I would ask yourself, who's ever listening to this, if you're in a stage of like, am I self-sabotaging? I also want to ask you, like, who are the top 5 people that you're hanging out with all the time? Are they people that are encouraging you, inspiring you, and pushing you in a way that makes you believe in yourself? Or are they people that are constantly talking to you about the past, are not
Mm.
um, building you up? Are you hanging out with people or associating with people that are either serving your future or
Yeah.
holding you back
Or
and
holding you
stuck
back.
in
Yeah.
a rut? So I'm not telling you to abandon all your friends, but what I am asking you is to start paying attention to, what is my environment like? Who are the people that are that I, again, have control over who I am hanging out with. If
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
hanging out with people that are making me feel terrible about who I am or what I do,
Yeah.
why am I hanging out with them? Or
Yeah.
is it, oh, because they are giving me evidence to believe, see, I was my limiting belief. I was right.
Mm.
Don't you
Yeah.
think that?
Yeah.
And I tell this to my clients all the time, our ego wants to be correct every single time. So it's constantly going to look for evidence. So
Yeah.
usually people that are going to make you continue to believe
Yeah.
that you're not worth it, if that is truly what you are believing.
I love that our ego wants to be correct. There's so many nuggets of wisdom that you've given us. You know, when you were saying these things, I thought of two things, which I'd like to share here. So, first of all, there's a book called "Wherever You Go, There You Are." It's a
Mhm.
mindfulness. It's a book on mindfulness. Have you read it?
I've
By
heard of that. I've not read the book though, but
It
I know what
is
you're talking
one of the most beautifully written books. I mean, it's one of the two books that I say that they changed my life. So
about. Okay.
that's an amazing, amazing book. And there is a part of it where I will misquote it, and I know I will not, and I'll butcher the quote. So I'll have to go back and search for it at some point. But there's something like, we were taught that we are unworthy, or we were taught lessons in our unworthiness, and we
Mhm.
learned our lessons well. And that has stuck with me, even though I say it wrong. It's written in a in a much better way than I've said it. But that's so true, that we were taught how unworthy we are, and we learned our lessons well. That's all external. And also in terms of external, how the external can be so positive. What you were saying about associating with the right kind of people. So just as a background information, so I am Pakistani. So in the Indian slash Pakistani community, there is a lot of you do get a lot of horror stories with the in-laws, and so having a bad image or having a bad relationship with the in-laws is kind of the norm. So if you
Mhm.
have good in-laws, or if you have a good relationship with your in-laws, that's the exception, not the norm, right? And I've recently been conscious that a lot of the stigma or the evilness of the in-laws is actually
Mhm.
unfounded, because I've been noticing how people talk about in-laws, influencers and podcasters, and how they sort of normalize sort of being mean to and making fun of completely benign things that your mother-in-law might say or do. I'm not talking about the toxic behaviors. And so, as I was reflecting on that, something happened, I think last night or something. My friend messaged me, and this is a very close friend of mine, so a close associate. And she mentioned that her mother in law will be visiting her. And she said it in a very positive way. And because in our culture, we value elders as well. So
Mhm.
unfortunately, the poor in-law elders some get discounted from that, which is completely wrong. It shouldn't be. And so she was extending that same respect to her mother-in-law, saying that, I'm really looking forward to having my mother-in-law over. I hope I get everything right, and because elders come with so many blessings. And I thought, you know what? Just as I've been looking at those other things, and I've been noticing how the word in-law has become a bad word. Here
Mhm.
is a girl who, lady, whoever. So here is my friend who is being so very positive about this. And I'm very positive about my in-laws as well. But then I realized this is how these are the external factors that affect us. And I was very grateful at that moment to have a friend who did not take that opportunity to moan about the fact that her mother-in-law was coming. It means extra work for her, right? I mean, she has to go out of her way to sort of cater to a completely different, so someone from a very different sort of lifestyle and things like that. But she is grateful for that opportunity. And so, it that really does make a difference. Who are you hanging out with? That really does affect your mindset. So I just thought I'd, share those two things from my life.
No, absolutely. And again, if you're I'm a person, we've talked about this, highly sensitive, but I definitely take on people's energy,
Yeah.
and that's hard with clients or just with friends in general. And I really try when I'm around other people, not that I'm trying to be different. If I'm having a hard day, I'm going to talk to my best friend, right? And
Yeah.
I encourage you to do that. So I don't, when I say this, I don't mean you can't ever have a bad day and you can't ever ask for support. But
Yeah.
what I set an intention when I hang out with people, like, am I an energy sucker or am I an energy giver? And what I mean by that is, I have set those boundaries where I remember going to lunch with an acquaintance. She had asked me to go to lunch, and all she did was talk and gossip about women that first of all, I didn't even know who they were.
Mm,
And I felt so depleted after that lunch. I told myself, okay, first of all, I wish I would have said, can you just stop doing this? But she was a new person. I was like, But
mm,
then I told myself, I I don't want to associate with that because I feel terrible after this lunch. And
yeah.
that's not my integrity. I don't like to sit there and talk about other women, first of
Yeah.
all, that I don't
Exactly.
even know them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it sucked
100%.
the energy out of me that I said, nope, I don't need to associate myself with her. Not
Yeah.
judging her. It's
Yeah.
just not what.
But that's your boundary, that your circle of influence, you're doing what you can control. So I mean, I love that you brought up high sensitivity. It just segues perfectly into our next, question. So we were talking about high sensitivity, and you said that you're highly sensitive as well. And as we're talking about subconscious beliefs and things, it just makes sense that a highly sensitive person would be more susceptible to the effects of those limiting beliefs. So, have you had the chance as yet to work with a highly sensitive child? And if so, what was the
Yeah.
experience like?
You know, little ones, and I can speak from my experience. I'm gonna do a disclaimer. My parents are amazing, amazing parents.
Yeah,
But it was their first time ever being a parent. It's
yeah.
not like they did it on purpose, but I remember being told, I'm so dramatic. Can't you just let things
Mm,
go? Oh, just like, could you just basically chill? And what I learned, was keep it in, hold it in.
mm,
And it became a weakness that, me expressing,
mm.
and back then I did not know how to emotionally regulate. So I definitely had the tantrums and the meltdowns and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
But because I feel so deeply about things, I
yeah,
didn't know how to express. And I can understand where my parents came from, like, chill, like, we don't know how to help
yeah,
you. But so now working with a little one where they feel so much. Their feelings are so deeply hurt by whether it's a classmate or a friend or their parent or a sibling. I allow them to express it. And what
mm,
I mean by that, in a healthy way, being able to express, this is how I feel
yeah,
and this is what I need. So I
mm,
really try to help a child validate, well, first of all, validating them, but being
yeah,
able for this child to validate themselves. I used to call, and I still sometimes do, hey, calling a best friend, am I overreacting? Is this a big deal or am I making this too big of a deal?
mm,
And the reason I do that or have done that in the past is because when I did have big feelings and emotions, I was told I was being dramatic
yeah,
and things like that. And so now it's this being able to trust my
mm,
feeling. And
yeah,
so I try very hard to coach a child, a teenager, or women that I'm working with. Hey, no, no, no. You're allowed to feel what you feel and
yeah,
trust that this feels bad or uncomfortable.
yeah,
Now being able to validate myself, like, no, I'm mad and I'm upset. Okay, why?
yeah,
And once we can figure out the why, then we can ask ourselves, then what do I need? A lot of
mm,
times, for example, I'm so upset that so and so didn't invite me to the birthday party. Okay,
Yeah.
I hear you. Why? Well, because everyone else got invited and that
Mm.
makes me mad.
Yeah.
Why? Well, and then as we go further, well, because, well, why wasn't I good enough? Why am I not invited? What's wrong with me? And so a
Mm.
lot of the times that we're mad or so upset, there's such a deeper feeling of it comes down to, well, what's wrong with me? And when we can help a child discover there's nothing wrong with you, people's actions have nothing to do or behaviors have nothing to do with us. But at the
Mm.
time, we don't know that. So, of course, we're taking on the way that people treat us or behave towards us, or have these experiences where we've told ourselves, oh, this is why. So, we put a lot of meaning into
Mm.
people's behaviors.
Mm.
Um, little one I was working with not too long ago, her sister was supposed to have sister time with her, and she really, really wanted this time. Well,
Yeah.
the sister was studying for finals. She's in high school, completely forgot
Mm.
because she was studying, right? Well, the little
Yeah.
one said, I was so upset she forgot. And I said, yeah, I can understand being upset that or disappointed that she forgot, but what are you telling yourself that this means? Like, why did
Mm.
she forget? Well, I'm not important. There
Mm.
we go.
Mm.
So again, the act was she forgot, and this means I'm not important. So
Yeah.
then she's having a huge moment inside of herself based on something that isn't true. So this is why working with highly sensitive kids is asking ourselves like, okay, what do I need right now for myself? How do I
Yeah.
self-soothe? And it's also okay to feel it,
Yeah.
giving ourselves permission.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. I mean, I've been there myself, always asking my friend or my husband, my close friend that I mentioned earlier, am I okay to feel angry here? Should I be feeling angry? And there have been times my husband is like, yes, that's so rude. And, like he's been angry on my behalf. I'm like, yeah, wasn't sure if I should be. And he said, you absolutely should be. So it's because we don't normally get that as children. We don't get that space because we are so very reactive, you know and the form that you've given us to deal with this reactivity that comes with high sensitivity, what do I feel and what do I need? I love that. And I think that can be helpful to any highly sensitive person across the board. So that's just brilliant. Now, I would like to ask you, so we're talking about high sensitivity, and I work with highly sensitive women, so my area of interest. What do you think about using writing in personal development? Do you use writing in any form?
I think writing is one of the very best things that you could do for yourself as far as healing, as far as just getting things out, because it has been proven, and I'm sure you tell your clients this too, that when you are writing or journaling, it's your
Yeah.
subconscious that has been blocked is coming all out. I have so many of my clients journal. Some are
Mm.
like, I don't, this feels uncomfortable. Well, yeah, because you've never done it, which is why it's going to feel uncomfortable. But I
Yeah.
have this one and I just adore her. And she's in her late 30s. The things that she'll journal about, she'll do I encourage her to do a meditation first,
Mm.
kind of like clear herself, clear her mind, and then start writing without even a prompt. Sometimes I'll give her a prompt, but a lot
Mm.
of times it's just writing. And
Yeah.
she'll send me messages during the week before we meet again. Oh, and she'll send me
Yeah.
her journals. So then
Yeah.
I get to read them so that I'm prepared for our next session. But
Mm.
I think whether it's, a little kid using their imagination and writing just a story in general, it allows the creativity. It allows us to not edit ourselves anymore because we
Yeah.
are constantly editing ourselves as we
Yeah.
talk, as we show up. But when you're journaling, you are allowed to write about things that maybe you didn't even know you needed to get out. And that's what I also tell clients is think of it that all of this gunk and stuff is in our
Mm.
body because it is. And when we write, it's allowing some of that to come out
Mm.
that our subconscious is showing us, hey, this is still here. You
Yeah.
haven't thought about it in 15 years, but it's still here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful the way you've explained that. There is so much research that points to the benefits of writing, and
it.
everyone can do it. Again, I think there's been a lot of gatekeeping because writing is an art form, and so people they believe that if they write, they need to write well, you
Mm.
know,
And that's
and
the
so
same thing with meditation. Like, oh, I can't meditate. And it's like, no, anyone can.
anyone
But
can
agreed with
exactly, yeah. So if I so now I would like to ask you a question about the key takeaway. And I'm going to
that.
try and bring together the various elements that we've spoken about. So let's say we have a highly sensitive woman, right? And so the reactivity that comes with being highly sensitive. Now, this person is a planner, right? She plans and plans and plans, right? She
Mhm.
really struggles to reach her goals. And she has maybe she has a teen, let's say she has a 15-year-old, right? And she sees her child also struggling to reach their goals, or maybe the goals that she has set for her child, and then
Mhm.
that triggers a huge reaction in her because it's so frustrating for her that she's not able to reach her goals. Is there any advice you could give to someone in this situation? Is there any small step they could take to at least begin the journey towards their dreams?
Yeah, I think, well, that's a great question. There's lots of things as I hear it too, and I see this a lot. There's a lot of programming, first of all, that I would ask her. I would say, okay, so why is whatever this goal is, why
Yeah.
is it important to you? Why do
Mm,
you want to accomplish it? And I am about find your why, absolutely. But I'm more interested in figuring out what accomplishing this goal would mean to me as far as what does it mean to be a good woman, a good
mm,
mother, wife, a good sister, whatever that is. Because a
yeah.
lot of times we create goals because we think once I accomplish it, then I'll feel better. I'll feel
Mm,
good about me. I'll feel proud of myself. And so I would ask her, why do we want to accomplish this and how can I already feel good now?
yeah.
Regardless of this goal. That would be one of the things. But then I think a lot of times we have this expectation of what it's going to be like with our child and or they're
Mm,
going to be and
yeah.
when they're not like us at all,
Mm,
we are unsure of how to handle them or
mm,
how to communicate with them. And then we have, because our expectation of how it was going to be is not the same, we end up either being disappointed or thinking I failed somehow.
yeah.
And if we can kind of separate ourselves and actually say, yes, they're my child, but they're a completely different individual that has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
They are their own person. We can also kind of stop fearing "Oh, they're not planning or they're planning, they're not
Mm,
doing like we have this fear of whether they need to, I want them to be just like me or please don't be anything like me. And
yeah.
so if we could allow our children to figure out who they are because their
Mm.
identity is identity.
Absolutely.
So
Their identity is an identity. Yeah.
yeah, and it's so hard. It's so hard. But I would going back to the question of, okay, I'm a planner. I love to plan. I'm a planner too. I love to do that. But
Yeah.
why am I not accomplishing?
Yeah.
Well, I would go back to let's figure out your identity. Because
Yeah.
to me, if you've got the skill set of like, let's make a plan. Cool.
Mm.
You sound like you're organized. You sound like you want this. I would go back to my self-sabotage questions of am I living in the past where, oh, I've planned before and it didn't work? Or am I
Mm.
focused on what I can't control, like my child, comparing myself to other mothers that their
Yeah.
children are accomplishing
Yeah.
and asking myself those kinds of questions. So I would highly encourage if she was my client to like, let's sit here and figure out, first of all, what is some of the beliefs that you have about you and goals? Because
Yeah.
I have to believe that there is some limiting belief there that she has about, I don't accomplish my goals, or my
Mm.
goals are too, or again, subconsciously, but trying to uncover that. So the first step would be to change the goal, or I'm sorry, to
Mm.
be change the belief like, I can accomplish my goals. I always accomplish my goals. I set
Yeah.
goals and but
Yeah.
instead it's I set goals and I never achieve them
Mm.
subconsciously. And I'm pointing to the back of my head where the subconscious is. So that would be my first takeaway for
And when you
her
did
is
that,
to
I thought of
figure
the
out,
Matrix,
right?
Yeah.
But that would be my takeaway or step for her is
Yeah.
figuring out want to accomplish this? And what
Yeah.
have I told myself
Yeah.
about why? Because
That's
that
going to be
subconscious,
so helpful. Yeah.
I mean, 95% of our decisions and choices are based on our subconscious,
Yeah.
whether we don't even know we're doing it. So
Exactly.
I trying to figure out like our identity truly
Absolutely.
and our yeah.
Yeah. I hope that is massively helpful to everyone who's listening, and that was so full of useful information, Gina. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, can you share your contact details? And I'll also obviously I'll pop them in the description as well. But could you tell us?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, Gina King Coaching. And my email is also ginakingcoaching@gmail.com. But yes, like on my Instagram, I'm really trying to create a community for women, mothers, sisters, daughter, whatever, to just feel seen, heard, and connected, because that's truly what we're all wanting. Yeah, send me a DM, ask me a question. I'm here for you. I women supporting women. And so, I even put out my story yesterday. Like, I think it's amazing that you have a podcast, you're a coach. Hey,
Mm,
let me learn more from another woman, and I can do the same from you. And
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
so love that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that.
Thank you so much, Gina, for all of that, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
If you're a highly sensitive woman and you're looking for guidance to help you along the journey of achieving your dreams, then do visit my website, penandheal.com, or send me an email, support@penandheal.com.